Hello guys, welcome to our channel AskPrep. Today's series is of 11th class biology. We will be studying about chapter 3, that is plant kingdom, in detail. Also we had added important note points for your examination perspective. All the best for your exam. Let's start the video. Starting with introduction. Whitaker classified the whole living organisms into 5 kingdoms based on the complexity of cell structure that are prokaryotic and eukaryotic, the complexity of the body, unicellular or multicellular, and mode of nutrition, autotrophs and heterotrophs. Moving forward to classification of plant kingdom. All the classification systems starting from that of Aristotle to the century can be divided into 3 types: artificial system, natural system and phylogenetic system. Artificial system. In this system, the classification is based on few morphological characters, Theophrastus, Pliny, Linnaeus used in an artificial system of classification. Natural system. In this system, classification is based on all the important related characters, both external and internal. Bentham and Hooker, Addison and Kendall used a natural system of classification. Phylogenetic system. Classification based on the evolutionary relationship of plants. The use of phylogeny for classification was done by Eichler, Plessy, Whitaker, Engler and Prant and Hutchison. Next, numerical taxonomy. Taxonomy based on statistical method with equal importance using computers. Psychotaxonomy. Taxonomy that is based on a psychology or structure of a cell, that should be chromosome number, shape or behavior. Chemotaxonomy. Taxonomy based on chemical constituents of plants, nature of the protein, DNA, sequence, taste, smell or extra. Eichler's classification. The classification of plant kingdom depending on flowering, divided into 2: cryptogame, non-flowering, seeded plants, and phanerogame, flowering, seeding-bearing plants. The 3 groups of cryptogame are Thallophyta and Bryophyta and Petrophyta based on the plant body. Thallophyta. The undifferentiated plant body of species resumes a thallus. Bryophyta, a class of plants with stem and root-like structure without vascular tissues. Petrophyta, the real roots, stems and leaves are distinct parts of the plant body, so-called vascular. Cryptogames contain vascular tissues. Thallophytes again divided into algae, that is pigmented thallophytes, fungi, non-pigmented thallophytes and lichens, symbiotic association between algae and fungi. Phanerogame is divided into gymnosperm, that is naked seed plants, and angiosperm, covered seed plants. Angiosperm are again divided into monocots bearing single of cyclodon, fibrous root system and vellal venation. Dicots have 2 cyclodons, taproot system and reticulate venation. Petrophytes are the group that includes gymnosperms, angiosperm and petrophytes because they have vascular tissue. The Bryophyta, Petrophyta and gymnosperm and angiosperm are referred to as Ambrophyta because of the presence of embryos. Algae. Phycology, a branch of biology that deals with study of algae, whereas phyco means seaweed and logos means study. Fritsch is the father of phycology. M.O.P. Iyengar is the father of Indian phycology. Algal members are pigmented thallophytes. Habitat. Hydrophytes, water is their habitat in aquatic habitat, fresh water and marine, floating, chlamydomonas and Spragueira. Benthophytes, these plants remain attached to the bottom of their habitat, example Chara. Xerophytes, their habitat is redders. Mesophytes, they grow in medium habitats. Epiphytes, they grow on plant bodies. Epizoote, growing on the animal body. Lithophytes, they grow on rocks. Halophytes, they grow on salty areas, moist soil. Terrestrial. Plant body. The vegetative plant body of algae is a haploid gametophyte. They may be unicellular, flagellated or non-flagellated, multicellular. Cobenium, it is a colony with a fixed number of cells and also the division of labor is fixed. Aggregation, indefinite colony. Filamentous, unbranched. Filamentous branches, example is Cladophora and Siphonous. It is a multicellular and example is Biocaria. These are some pics of green algae. The first one is Chlamydomona, which is found under seawater. Volvus clonid, it is a biological representation of Chlamydona. Spragueira and Alva, that is found on the ponds or rivers. Nutrition. Autotrophs mostly get of nutrition from the photosynthetic and parasitic forms, for example, Xylophoros. Pigments. Chlorophyll can be divided into A, B, C, D in the level of that. Carotenoids. Carotenoid and xylophin functions are dominating pigments in brown algae. Phycobilins. Phycobilin, sannine and hydrogen are the example of phycobilins. Reproduction. Reproduction is the production of offsprings. Vegetative reproduction. Reproduction is used in vegetative parts. There are different types of parts that are used in reproduction: fission, fragmentation, budding, tubers and gamete. Sexual reproduction. Isogamy, the union of comparable gametes in terms of morphology and psychology. Flagellated and non-flagellated are examples of isogamy. Sexual reproduction, anisogamy, the union of gametes with different morphologies and psychological profiles. In chlamydones and morphologically distinct gametes fuse in cythogora, and fusing of psychologically different gametes takes place. Ogamy. This is a union of two different types of gametes, a large non-motile female gamete and a small motile male gamete that differ in both morphology and psychology. Life cycle. This is comparable to sexual reproduction in animals where each generation contains both haploid and diploid cells. Two phases, diploid and haploid, with some exhibiting generation alternation, the haploid phase and the diploid phase alternative. Types of cell life cycle. Classified into 4 cycles. Psychopsodia, that example is Cycas. Kinophosphidia, example is Pinus. Genosphidia is Genitum and Gymnospedia is Ginkgo. It is a picture where it is classified into 4 classes that you can see. In Cyanophyta, it is an example is Pinus. Pseudophyta is an example of Cycas. Gyngospida is an example of Ginkgo, and Genospida is sort of Genitum. Economics important. Timber for furniture, pulpwood, pencil box and musical instruments extra. Production of resins and turpentine extra, example is Pinus. Edible seed, example Cycas, Pinus and Ginkgo. Medical example, Ederferine from Edifera is used in treatment for respiratory problems. Taxol from Texas. Species are extracted to freeze cancer cells. Common names. Menfera tree is an example of Ginkgo. Sago palm is called the panda of plant kingdom, Cycas. The largest gymnosperm is Sequoia and the smallest gymnosperm is Zamia. Gymnosperm with xylem vessels, Edifera and Genitum. Gymnosperms. Ovules are also not enclosed by the wall of ovary. Dominant plants during the Jurassic period. Leaves are adapted for extreme temperature, humidity and wind. Needle-like leaves with thick cuticles and sunken stamina. Example Pinus. Leaf may be simple or compound. That are, the stem is branched as in Cycas and branch in Pinus and Cedrus. Reproduction. Sporophytes are aggregated to form stromboli or cones. They are generally monospregnite or of 2 types, male and female cones. Male cones are short-lived, whereas female cones are long-lived. Male strawberry or male cone microsophiles, which bear microsophagia having microspores, which develop into reduced gametophyte called a pollen grain. Female cone or female strawberry megaphiles, which bear megasporium having megaspores which are enclosed within megasporium, that is nucleus. One megaspore develops into female gametophyte bearing 2 or more arragenia. Pollen grains are carried by wind and they can reach the ovules. The endosperms in gymnosperms are like a pre-fertilization product and a haploid in nature. Gymnosperm production. Below is an example of a life cycle of a white pine tree, that how it is reproduction takes place in the pine tree. First, you can see it is an adult tree. It has 2 structures, male cone and female cone. Whereas male cone have pollen grains, that is haploid, and female cones and embryo, that also is a haploid. The male cone is now converted into pollen tube, brings pollen into ovary for fertilization and is carried forward. Matured fruit developed from ovary to protect seeds and promote dispersal. Angiosperm. Angiosperm are also known as flowering plants and they are having covered seeds. They are divided into 2 classes, diclosodons having 2 cyclodons, monocyclodons having only 1 cyclodon. Smallest angiosperm, Wolffia. Largest tree, eucalyptus over 100 meter. Reproductive organs are developed in flower. The male sex organ present in a flower are called stamens or annulation. Alternation of generation. A haploid gamete that produces both gamophytic and spore producing saurophytic and generation alternates. There are 3 types: haplophytic life cycle, diplophytic life cycle, and haplodiploidic life cycle. Haplontic life cycle. It is a dominant phase that is free living, photosynthetic gametophyte and reproduction. Gamete produced by meiosis in the gametophyte. Gamete fuse to form a diploid zygote. Spore formation, the zygote undergoes to create haploid spores. Example, chlamydones. It is another green algae. Diploidic life cycle. Dominant phase diploidic saurophyte independent photosynthetic. Gametophyte reduce short-lived haploid nourished by the sporophyte reproduction. Gamete formed through meiosis within the gametophyte. Gamete is used to form a diploid zygote. Spore formation undergoes meiosis to create a haploid spores. Examples: angiosperms and gymnosperms. Haplodiploidic life cycles. Haplodiploidic life cycles, gametes are not directly a result of a meiotic division. Diploid saurophyte cell undergo meiosis to produce a haploid spores. Each spores go through meiotic divisions to yield a multicellular haploid gametophyte. Thanks for watching video. We will be dropping notes in description of this video. If you found this video very helpful, kindly do like, subscribe and share. See you in next video again. All the best for your exam.